Hello everyone and welcome to .NET Core Central. In today's video, I'm going to continue my discussion on RabbitMQ. In my last couple of videos, I covered the basics of using a queue and then discussed about direct exchange. In today's video, I'm going to cover rest of the exchanges, which are topic exchange, header exchange, and Fanout Exchange. These are the three exchange types which are left to discuss. So to start with, I'm going to start with a topic exchange. And if you remember, as I mentioned earlier, a topic exchange also uses a routing key just like the direct exchange, but it does not do an exact match on the routing key, meaning you can have pattern defined in the routing key and we can use those pattern to match the queue, and that's how the message is delivered to different queues by the RabbitMQ from the topic exchange. So to demonstrate that, I'll first start with creating a new consumer class. Then I'm going to name it as topic consumer class. So topic exchange consumer. And for the topic exchange consumer also, the first part of the code will be very similar to how it is for the direct exchange. And I'm going to continue using static classes for this demonstration. As I mentioned in my last video also, after I finish the exchange topic, which is going to be today's video, I'm going to take up a real life example on using RabbitMQ with ASP.NET Core. And that's where I'm going to use proper dependency injection and how to use this in the context of a real life application. So for the subscription, the code will look, if not same, but almost similar to what this code looks like. So I can just copy paste this part of the code, and here instead of direct exchange, I'm going to name it as topic exchange. Let me add the necessary namespaces, which is RabbitMQ.client, and here instead of direct, the exchange type is also going to be topic, and here the queue name, I'm going to change it to topic queue and topic exchange. So using a constant is better for the names, but for this demo I'm just going to go without constants. So as you can see, just like how we did for direct exchange, we are going to do an exchange declare. And if this is the first video you are watching, I'm going to suggest you to go back and see the previous video, but I'm just going to go back to the program and show that in the program we create a connection factory with the URI to the RabbitMQ, which is a local RabbitMQ running in the PC here. And as you can see, this has exchanges and queue. Right now I deleted the exchange, the direct exchange, but the queues are still there. So this is the administrative UI for the RabbitMQ. Now here I create the connection factory. From the connection factory I create the connection. From connection I create the channel, which is an instance of iModel, and then I call into one of these functions. So here to topic exchange we'll get the iModel, and then from that we will do a exchange declare. We'll declare topic, type will be topic, queue declare the name of the queue, and then we're going to bind the queue to the exchange. So this is what we have done. And next here is the change. So here after the exchange name where we give the routing key, in the routing key we can use a pattern. So I can use a pattern star, which will say that any routing key with account dot anything after that can be listened by this particular queue, which means if we have multiple publisher publishing messages to account dot new or account dot open or account dot close, all these routing key messages will be routed to this particular topic queue, because this topic is listening to all the routing keys which start with account dot. Next we are going to use eventing basic consumer for creating the consumer, and I'm going to add the namespace RabbitMQ.client.events, and rest of the code will remain similar. I'll just change the name again here, topic queue. So we will start consuming the topic queue, and we will do an auto acknowledge here and then pass the consumer that we created earlier, and rest of the code will remain as is. So this is where the only change we did. First of all, we used the exchange type as topic, and secondly, in the routing key, instead of giving a specific routing key, we're just giving a pattern account.star. And as I mentioned earlier in my previous videos, is that for a topic exchange it does a pattern match based on the pattern you sent. Now once this exchange is created, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to program and change it to, instead of direct exchange, I'm going to change it to topic exchange.consume. So the main function is now configured to listen to the topic exchange. So now I'm going to run this application, and this should create the demo topic exchange and demo topic queues in the RabbitMQ. So let me run. But since we don't have any producer, it is not going to get any messages yet. So this is running. If I go to RabbitMQ now, I can see the demo topic exchange, and for the demo topic exchange, I can see the routing key is account.star, and this is the demo topic queue, and it is configured, and this listener is listening to it. Now let's go back to the producer, and in the producer, we are going to create like a direct exchange publisher, a topic exchange publisher. So once the code is created, we are going to copy paste the code from the direct exchange publisher. And here also in the program, as we did for consumer, we created the connection factory, then created the connection out of the connection factory, then created a channel and passed it to the next level of class, where we are going to declare the exchange and start publishing the message. Here we provided a time to live for the exchange, and I discussed in my last video we can use time to live for exchange as well as queue as well as message. So I'm just going to leave the time to live portion for the time being. So here I'm going to change the name from direct to topic, and here also exchange type as topic. That's the only change essentially. Now what I'm going to do is, as you can see, we are passing a message to init, account.init. So since it is account dot, the topic that we have, let me change this also to topic. So since it is account.init, our consumer should be able to get this message because it matches the pattern of account.star. So I'm going to run this and show the message is showing up. Then I'm going to come and change the routing key here to something else. Like instead of account.init, we can have something, and we will see that it is not going to be going back to the topic. But if you change this to instead of account.init, account.update, it should still get the message. But before I run this, I should change here from direct exchange to topic exchange so that it publishes to the topic. Now if I run the publisher, go back to the consumer, I can see the consumer is getting the message. Now I'm going to change here in the publisher from init to update, and this should still work. So if I run now, again you can see it started again from 1, 2, 3 with the new. Now let's change this to something else. So instead of account.update, if it is user.update, the consumer will not get any message. Now this is running. We go back to consumer, and consumer is not getting any message. But if we go back to exchange, we can see exchange is getting message, but this message is not read by anyone. So it has a steady state message which is not read by anyone. So this shows how to use topic exchange, and topic exchange can be very powerful when you want to use routing keys for queue binding so that you can filter your message, but at the same time you want to have some flexibility in terms of the consumer to choose what kind of routing key they want to listen to. So that is where it becomes really useful. The next one we want to discuss is the header exchange, and header exchange routes messages based on the header value, and of course they are similar to topic exchange. So let's go and take a look at how to build a header exchange. So in terms of code, I can pretty much copy paste the topic consumer because they are very similar, and go here and rename it to header exchange. And then change this to header. Exchange type is also header. Create a queue with demo header queue, and then bind the demo header queue to demo header exchange. Now at this point in time, for the header exchange, I'm going to keep the routing key as string.empty because we don't need it. But what we want to use instead is a header value. So let's pass a header value, and let's create header equal to new of dictionary string object. That's the type for the header value in RabbitMQ. And for the header, we can say account is the key and value is new, let's say. So it's for new account, and this is the way to filter for us. I have to create the header before we bind the key, because we are going to send it to QBind method, and here you can send the headers. So this should create the header exchange. Rest of the thing would remain exactly same, just changing this to header. So header exchange, header queue, binding header queue to the header exchange, not passing any routing key but a header dictionary instead, where we're saying new account message should route here, and that's about it. And then the next thing we have to do is we have to come here and change from topic exchange consumer to header exchange consumer. That's all we have to do. Once we do that, we should be all set. We should run this application, and then if we go to RabbitMQ, we can see the header exchange is created. And if we click on the header exchange, we are now able to see that the demo header queue doesn't have any routing key, but in the arguments it has an account and it's bound to the new, and now it is ready to ingest messages. So let's go back to the producer, and in the producer, let's create a new class. Will be similar to topic exchange. Let's just copy paste, then rename, and here is going to be header exchange, type is headers, and then for publishing the message we need a couple of changes. First of all, we're going to make the routing key as empty, but then for properties we want to set the header properties. For that, what we're going to do is var is equal to channel dot create basic properties. So once we get a handle to this, we can say properties dot headers equal to new of dictionary string object, and then here we can say, just like before, account and the value as new. And then what we can do is we can pass the properties to here. Now we have to go to program, change from topic exchange to header exchange. And now if we run the producer, we should be seeing the messages. Let me change this to header. So now let's run this application and see what's going on. If we go back to the consumer, we can see the consumer is getting message. It's because the header is matching. If we go to RabbitMQ and see that this has increased and this queue is getting the message due to the matching header. Now one thing we can do is we can go back to the producer and change the header value to something else. Let's say instead of new, it's update account, and run this producer. And now if we go to the consumer, see none of the messages are showing up in the consumer now. And if we go to the queue doesn't have any message, but the exchange should be getting messages, and we can see the exchange is getting messages, but it's not delivered anywhere because the header properties are not matching. So that's how header works. Header is another alternative where you can have multiple header values and you can have specific matches. Like your question might be, what is the difference between header and direct and topic exchange? Well, direct, we know it's a direct binding with the routing key. If the routing key doesn't matches, it will not be transferred. With topic, we have seen, well, we have a little bit of leeway where we can have a pattern where we can say what all topics we want to listen to based on the routing key with a star, right? So it will do a pattern match. So that's where you get one consumer able to read messages from multiple routing key. The header exchange publisher gives you even more flexibility where you can pick and choose, not based on pattern, but exact match on header what all messages you want to see. So as you can see, it's going from very specific towards more generic. So direct is extremely specific, then topic gives you a little bit more flexibility, header gives you even more flexibility, and now we'll come to the last one, which is Fanout Exchange, which is extremely open. So for Fanout Exchange, if you remember, Fanout Exchange route messages to all the queues bound to it. It does not look into any routing key or anything. It just takes the messages and just sends messages to all the queues bound to it. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to the consumer, and just like before, I'm going to copy and paste one of the classes because the code is going to be very similar. Again, in a production style application, we are not going to write code like this. We will consider reusability. but for this demonstration I'm doing it. In my next video, when we take these concepts that we learned here and try to build a real life application, some of these things will look quite different. So for Fanout subscriber, we have to change this to Fanout. I mean, we don't have to name it as Fanout Exchange, but I am doing it for demo. You can name it anything you want, and of course the name of the exchange will be very specific to application, and it will be focused on what the responsibility of the exchange is. For me, I'm keeping it demo Fanout Exchange. The type, of course, you have to change to Fanout because that is needed. The queue name, I'm going to change it to Fanout queue, and I'm just going to get rid of the header. It is not needed. Going to rename it as Fanout and demo Fanout Exchange, and I'm going to keep the routing key as empty, and everything else would remain the same. Let's change the name here also as Fanout, and going to go to the program and change this to Fanout queue. And I'm going to run a couple of instances of this application to show how it will work. So if I go to the RabbitMQ consumer, I'm going to run 2 instances of the consumer. So this is the first consumer. This is the second consumer. And if we go to the UI in the RabbitMQ dashboard, we can see the Fanout Exchange is created. Fanout Exchange is connected to this demo Fanout queue. And here we can see 2 consumers are connected. Now I'll go back to the producer. In the producer also, I'm just going to copy paste this code and rename that as Fanout Exchange producer. And here rename it as Fanout. Next thing is we're going to change the header to Fanout. We'll also change here the exchange as Fanout. And then the basic properties are not needed, but I'm just going to keep it just to show that it really doesn't matter what you pass in header. It will be going to both the consumer. And then finally I go to the program and change here to Fanout Exchange publisher. Now we are ready. I'm going to run the producer, and then I go to the consumers, and I can see both the consumers are getting the message irrespective of what is there in the header for the publisher. Now let's do one thing. Let's also add a routing key here. So we not only added properties, now we added a routing key also. Let's run the producer. And as you can see, consumers are getting message irrespective of routing key. And that's what concludes the Fanout Exchange. And as you can see, it starts with direct exchange, which is very specific to a routing key. Then you can use, if you want a little bit more flexibility, you can use topic exchange, where you can have a pattern match on the routing key. If you need a little bit more flexibility, you get into header, where you can bind based on different header values. And then finally, if you don't care about any of the routing key or header attributes, you just want all the queue to get any message coming into an exchange, you use the Fanout Exchange. Now, as I showed in my very fast video, that you can use just a simple queue reader also, but I would suggest using the exchange queue pattern, meaning messages published to exchange and then binding key to different exchanges. The reason it is helpful is the producer never has to change based on how many consumer or how many types of consumer you have. Meaning if you are passing appropriate header values and appropriate routing keys, your producer can produce whatever message. And in future, if you need to handle message differently by different types of consumer, you can do that based on header and routing key configuration and create different queues on the other side, where you can add different consumer. That way you can scale out your application extremely easily and create microservices based on specific need, which will bound to routing key or headers. So that's all I wanted to cover today. This concludes our series of RabbitMQ. As I said multiple times, RabbitMQ is a very vast subject, and I am absolutely sure that I have not covered a lot of aspects. Please feel free to put comments in the comment section and let me know if there is something specific you want me to cover. I'll be more than happy to do that. In my next video, I will use everything we have learned so far with RabbitMQ and build a real life ASP.NET Core microservices application with multiple microservices who are reactive in nature and will be listening to queue to perform multiple tasks. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you are new to my channel and if you think you are going to get value out of my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching this video.